The big one, arguably the most iconic in the series, Devil May Cry 3 took what well from the prior games and completely elevated it in pretty much every single way. With it being a prequel, it's the first game set in the timeline, and I'm really eager to get into it and see what it does well and what the other games either did better or what the later ones improve upon. So without further ado, let's get into my thoughts on Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition. And before even loading up the game, it gives you a choice of gold or yellow, and for whatever reason the game just doesn't explain what this actually means. It's just like, nah, figure it out, pick a color. Like, what am I supposed to glean from this, Capcom? Is this just my favorite color out the two, or what? But I will be so gracious as to explain what it means. So gold allows for checkpoints if you die in a level, whereas yellow requires you to start the entire mission from the beginning unless you have a resurrection item. I just went with gold because it's just a lot more convenient. But I don't plan on dying much in the levels because, you know, I've got that gamer cred like that. An as of yet unseen woman narrates the legend of Sparda over visuals of Dante and Virgil dueling in the rain. As I said before, DMC3 is a prequel, the first game in the series timeline, and takes place when Dante is around 18 or 19 years old, I believe. And you can definitely tell this is a younger version of the character, taking the somewhat goofy side of his DMC1 self and just dialing it up to 11. And that goes for the action too, both in cutscenes and in-game. Debuting in Devil May Cry 3 is the style system. Dante has 4 styles to choose that determine an extra ability that he gets to play with. My personal favourite, Trickster, allows for extra dodges and increased mobility, allowing chances to weave in and out of enemy range for better positioning or extending combos that you otherwise couldn't. Swordmaster, which increases the variety of skills you can perform with your melee weapon, is my second favourite style, and I personally like to use it for the extra aerial combos it allows. Gunslinger is the equivalent of Swordmaster, but for guns. Go figure. It's pretty good for crowd control and lets you do a specific move depending on what gun Dante's holding, and it lets you do my favourite gun related move in the game, the spinny one. I don't know what it's called, but it's the one where you've got the pistols and you spin around. It's real fun. Lastly is Royal Guard, centered around defense and parrying that you can unleash for devastating damage. I'm gonna be real, I've never been a big fan on this one, mainly because I find the timing you need to parry to get any decent use out of Royal Guard so strict in this game in particular. Even in the later entries where the parry window becomes notably more lenient, I've never been good at actually utilizing this one, so I will not be using it a lot in my footage here. Apologies for the Royal Guard heads out there. I know you guys exist. Dante's brother, Virgil, has raised this big tower called the Tema Negru in order to harness their father's power, as the portal he used to separate the human and demon world is located there, and this cutscene does a really good job of immediately portraying Virgil as this figure that you need to take seriously, since the, I can't remember the name, but it's like the Grim Reaper looking enemy that you've just fought in Mission 2 as a boss fight, sneaks up behind Virgil, and he just fucking obliterates it without even thinking twice about it. Dante had to put in quite a bit of effort based on gameplay, well, if it's your first time playing and you don't have all his stuff, in order to take out this foe, but Virgil just did the whole anime, cut it, and it slowly thingies in half by the time he puts his sword away. Like, go take it seriously. I didn't really speak about them in my videos on DMC 1 and 2 since I didn't really bother doing a lot of them, but making their return as secret missions, which are hidden extra challenges you can access by interacting with certain parts of the world to get extra goodies for clearing specific combat challenges. Now this is a concept that I quite liked in the prior entries, but an added feature to this one that I like even more are statues that will drop increases to health or devil trigger when broken by comboing up to a certain rank, which does a really good job of giving you time to practice with the respective weapons in the game and how to utilize them properly to get high ranks. Technically the first boss of the game is the Reaper enemy in Mission 2 that I mentioned before, but that's more of a tutorial than anything. you do fight them quite regularly throughout the game, so it's just pretty much a souped up normal enemy. Cerberus is the first proper challenge that the game has to offer, and I remember the Guardian to the Tower's entrance kicking my ass when I was younger. Swordmaster is absolutely the style to go with here. I figured Trickster would be best at first, but no, since you want to apply constant pressure to keep the ice armor on its heads broken, and the wide swings of Swordmaster's aerial combo will keep you in the air, meaning you can easily stack up damage while keeping yourself out of harm's way at the same time. Beating him rewards you with these ice nunchucks and an entertaining cutscene of the woman from the intro doing the narration, who we'll come to know as a lady, on a motorbike shooting a rocket at Dante, who just could not care less. What a guy. I always found the nunchucks to be alright at best. I don't dislike them, but I feel like mentally ill for feeling like this because everyone I've seen talk about them seems to just adore them. Like I say, they're far from the worst weapon in the game, but it can just feel a bit slow for my liking at times, like the attack speed. I don't know, it just never fully clicked with me. Anyway, the next boss, Gigapede, is probably the easiest in the game. Just get to higher ground, jump on it, and go ham. If it does its little twist thing, then if you've got Swordmaster, you can just aerial combo it in the air, or you can just jump back on its back and continue to go ham. Something that was added to the special edition, what I'm playing and is on the HD collection, is a new optional boss battle against Jester, this wacky demon clown fella who was always a part of the story but had no fight in the original game. It's alright, you just need to like slash and shoot at him a few times until he stops teleporting, then attack and then attack again whilst avoiding these orbs, but hitting the green ones heal you, so go for them. Although it's much more apparent in the first game, you can still feel that Resident Evil influence exploring the tower, to the point it can get a tad confusing remembering where exactly you need to go, but it's nothing crazy, and I can't say I've ever had an issue with the fixed camera angles, because you can still influence the camera a little bit, and I feel like the camera angles they picked just show you everything you need to in a fight. I can't think of a time where I've felt that the camera has impeded like my ability to perform well in a fight. The next boss, Agni and Rudra, I have a big soft spot for. Their intro cutscene is very endearing, and it does an excellent job of making two bosses at once feel fair, which is quite hard to do, but for some reason I remembered this fight taking place later into the game for whatever reason. Strategy plays a big role here, not only in timing strikes to knock the blades out of their hands to make them more vulnerable, but deciding when to eliminate one of them while the other's health is low so you don't need to deal with the second phase's more complex moveset for too long. In fact, if you play your cards right, you can beat the boss and skip the second phase entirely. The weapon you get, the twin swords using flame and wind respectively, are probably my second favourite melee weapon right after Rebellion. But here is where we have an issue. You can only equip two weapons at a time during a mission. Both guns and melee, as well as only having one style active at any given time. Granted, you can change guns, melee weapons and styles out between missions and during them at goddess statues, but I find you naturally get into a rhythm when getting used to a certain loadout that makes you subconsciously shy away from trying out new things you otherwise wouldn't if you had access to everything. Another reason for this with the style in particular is down to the fact that the more you use one, it'll level up, allowing for additional bonuses when equipped. Like extra attacks in Swordmaster, multiple dodges and air boosts in Trickster, etc. I do have more to say on how Devil May Cry 3 handles styles and weapon equips, but I'm gonna save that for later. In the meantime, let's talk about the woman we saw firing rockets at Dante earlier. I mentioned that we'll know her as Lady. Yeah, that's her name, kind of. Just go with it. She's a certified bad bitch who's more than capable of giving demons the business. And despite her pulling off some quite frankly mental feats here, she's 100% human, unlike the Sons of Sparta. She is just built different, frankly. The next mission is about clearing trials to progress up the tower. I believe only doing 2 is required, but it's definitely worth doing all 3 in my opinion, since you get a cool new gun, Artemis, as a reward, and it's probably my second favourite after the pistols. It's just like this really dope laser gun. Virgil's creepy crony, Arkham, confronts Lady, who, it turns out, is actually his daughter, and he ends up just throwing her off the side of the building here. Bit of a knob, innit? Don't worry about her though, she's fine. Dante caught her and gets shot for flirting with her.
My kind of rain. No wonder the sky looks so funny today.
Let me go!
Let you go? But it would be a waste if you ended up as just a pretty stain.
We've all been there, am I right, lads? Let's talk about Mission 7. The first confrontation with Virgil is just elite. It's so much fun seeing the brothers' contrasting personalities playing off each other. Virgil's fight is all about narrowly avoiding his counters so you can get back into the fight quickly and take advantage of the small windows for attack. That slash upwards before getting set back down he does was always the trickiest for me to dodge. It's a winning game, losing cutscene affair, but in the game's defense, the outcome was teased in the intro, and I have to say, I adore the moment Virgil has where he holds his mother's amulet close to his head. It's a really tiny thing that made like a permanent imprint in my mind ever since I first saw it. It's just one of those things I think of when it comes to Virgil. Like, anyone brings his character up, that's like the first thing that comes to mind for me. And it does a lot to convey there's more to him than just a conquest for power. Little did he know that stabbing Dante with Rebellion would activate his latent demonic blood, meaning that from now on, the player has access to Devil Trigger, a really cool bit of continuity, since at this point in his life, Dante pretty much entirely rejected his father's side, explaining the absence of the ability up to this point, contrasting with Virgil pretty readily abandoning his humanity. The inside of this creature, the Leviathan, is a hell of a creative setting. But the environments do get kinda samey, and a mediocre boss drag the level down a bit, sadly. In conclusion, bit of a Jabu Jabu's belly looking ass. And after that insightful bit of commentary, I want to touch on something mentioned in my Devil May Cry 2 video, go watch that if you haven't please. I firmly believe some of the moves in that game were the birth of what would become the style system here in 3. In particular, his gun maneuvers in that game remind me of the shit you can pull off in Gunslinger, and they definitely cut the wall running from his base moveset from 2 to give it to Trickster's style in 3. I think it's really cool how we can see these ideas expanded upon from entry to entry. Nevin is a pretty underrated boss in my view. It's all about timing your attacks to certain voice lines that will indicate her being vulnerable. And then to top it off, she turns into a guitar that Dante rocks out on, confirming for me at least that Dante sings the battle themes to himself when he fights. It's probably my least favourite melee weapon if I'm honest though. As cool as a lightning-infused electric guitar axe thing that shoots electric bats is, I just find it too difficult to use personally. Oh, and all while that's going on, Virgil murked Arkham, by the way. Rip Bozo. But in an insanely unlucky coincidence for Dante, Lady walks in on him when he's near her dad's body, assuming that he's responsible with him doing absolutely nothing to beat the allegations. At this point in the story though, Dante doesn't really have any interest in much of anything, and in my view masks his self-loathing through humour, partly explaining why he doesn't explain the situation to Lady. He probably views her anger towards him as justified simply for being part demon. Turns out Arkham isn't quite dead yet, though, telling his daughter that he was too weak to resist Virgil's demonic influence and that everything he's done up till now, including murdering his wife, were due to demonic possession. And in the process, he reveals Lady's real name to the audience, Mary. Moving on to Beowulf, who's a really solid boss, you can use his fucked up eyes, which I think were implied were from a whooping from Sparta that never healed right, to your benefit by slashing him in the face, knocking him off his game and causing him to flail about randomly. However, his later AoE blasts are a bit of a pain to avoid, as well as the angel wing shooter move. I hate that move.
Saw it too, didn't you? That huge tower jutting out of the ground. That thick shaft that causes women to shudder.
What did he mean by this? The second Jester boss is similar to the first, with the addition of this ball in the last quarter that explodes from time to time. There's also a time-stopping horse. It's alright. Swordmaster and Gunslinger are probably the best for this battle as he often retreats, and staying in the air is a good way to dodge quite a few of his moves. I'm gonna be real, I completely forgot the name of the time stop horse. It's Girion. I've been pronouncing it as Girion for decades, but apparently it's pronounced Girion, and it's based on like Greek mythology. So that's cool. But I forgot the reward you got for beating it was a new style. Like, in my mind, the 4 you start out with were just what you had for the whole of the game. But no, you get Quicksilver. This is a style that allows you to slow down time, and in contrast to the other styles, this can't be upgraded and uses Devil Trigger to remain active. And I do think it's cool, but I kinda wish it did have some form of upgrade, like consuming less DT gauge as an example, as it makes it feel a bit lesser than the other ones in my opinion. But on the other hand, I can see the devs worrying about not having enough orbs to go around, but that's what multiple playthroughs are for. You go through on higher difficulties for more orbs, so you can get better and get more at the end as like a rank reward. And on it goes, so you've got everything. Mission 13 caps off with another battle against Virgil, and the cheeky bugger nicks the weapon you would have got off of Beowulf to use against you. And to top it off, he's got his own Devil Trigger to use during the fight as well. What a cheeky twat. Look at his little smirk there, he knows what he's doing.
Don't be a bad girl, Mary. Or you can expect a spanking from Daddy later.
I beg your pardon? I beg your pardon?
The fight results in a stalemate since Jester, who turned out to be Arkham, has been playing everyone against each other to tire them all out for his own benefit. And with the amulet, Sparda, and Lady's Blood, the gates of hell are now open. Almost immediately into Mission 14, you can pick up the gauntlets Virgil had, finally getting the government-mandated punchy weapon of DMC3. That's how you know DMC2 isn't a real Devil May Cry game, by the way. It didn't have a punchy boy. But then the reboot has one, so maybe that's not how you tell what a real Devil May Cry game is. Much to think on. Oh, another example of seeing ideas get revisited in later entries. Seeing Dante on a bike more than a few times in this game here, knowing what happens in DMC5, is a fun little unintentional nod for me. Dante and Lady meet back up, and Lady lashes out big time at Dante, and since it's her father that caused all this mess, she feels it's her duty to resolve the matter. And this is what gives Dante the kick up the arse he really needed to start taking things seriously. Nevertheless, he still wants her to stay out of the matter since she's fully human and doesn't want her to get hurt, but she is not having it. And the pair have what I feel is like a sparring match, a test to make sure that they're both ready. Her machine gun has some pretty mental knockback, but the fight is more so about quickly finding her and going ham since she runs away so often, so Trickster is definitely the style to go with here. The Aftermath has Dante verbally confirmed that Lady's actions have made an impact on him, now going after Virgil for the right reasons, and Lady gifts him her rocket launcher, Kalina Ann, which I believed is named after her late mother. Showing that, despite being half demon and her initial prejudice towards demons, she does now fully trust him to see things through. Mission 17 is where you have the final fight against Jester, and I've been waiting to talk about this for a while. First off, real quick, this is the most annoying out of the 3 fights he has, since it takes like next to no damage in the last quarter of the boss fight, which is just like, come on man. Like, that's just artificially inflating the length of the fight, just make him take the normal amount that he did earlier. And second, it is so clear that he wasn't a part of the original game, since every single voice line is recycled from previous dialogue in the game in all 3 fights. It's just all recycled, reused lines from the cutscenes. And maybe even an earlier version of the script, since he calls himself Joker rather than Jester, so I guess they didn't want any, like, Batman similarities, so they changed the name real quick. In contrast, the boss against Doppelganger I actually like quite a lot though. It feels like it takes some cues from Nello Angelo based on its initial appearance and a couple of its attacks, but you need to open up these lights close to him to deal damage, and get all of them in order to really lay the smackdown into him. Defeating him rewards you with the final style of the game, Doppelganger, which creates a clone of Dante to help deal with enemies. And fun fact, if you have a second controller plugged in, they can take control of it, so that's fun. After a very violent game of chess, Mission 18 serves as the boss rush of the game, having you overcome the previously fought health bar totem foes in any order you choose. It's particularly interesting to fight the earlier bosses like Cerberus or Agni and Rudra with all the abilities you've gained throughout the adventure. You're only required to do a few of them to progress, but it's well worth beating them all as you get a blue shard as your reward, plus it's fun to fight a lot of them again. Arkham's got his grubby little mitts on the old Sparta family heirloom, the Force Edge, and he thinks he's got the true power of Sparta. Nah, get blobbed on, idiot. He's unable to handle all this demonic power, so we have to fight him in this blob form, and it's probably the worst fight in the entire game. His moves feel poorly telegraphed, his size sometimes does obscure his movement, and given his design, it can be hard to make out what he's even doing until you see something like an arm movement, or like his arm quickly detaching, and by then chances are you're gonna get hit. Plus those leeches hit stun like a bitch. And worst of all, he's just rather boring. But a cool addition is Virgil fighting alongside the player in the second phase, the brothers setting aside their differences for some payback, and I love the phrase, his own special style of ass-kicking, and the little pop-up about Virgil joining in the fight. It feels like Dante is self-wrote it was really cute. But for some reason, Devil Trigger and your style action are locked off for the remaining duration. The latter I can understand, since you'll use that same button to call Virgil back to you, but there was zero reason to lock off DT. It is total bullshit. It feels like they couldn't have something positive in this fight without making a negative. So far in my footage, I've been doing 0 deaths with no items runs of each mission, and when I've failed, I've gone back and replayed them, because I just find it fun, with such a lineup filled with stellar bosses. But not here. For Arkham, he pissed me off so much, I just said fuck it and used whatever I had to end the fight quicker. Boys, get him the hell out of here.
I'll try it your way for once. Remember what we used to say? Jackpot. Not very classy for someone's dying words.
Ladies made her way to the top of the tower, just in time to see her deadbeat dad spat back out to Earth, officially taking on the moniker of Lady and putting down the Joker in an honestly effective, emotional scene. I've dunked on the character of Arkham a lot, but I do like every character in the cast here, and the voice acting is pretty stellar all around, especially for 2005. But that last shrill cry from Arkham really got to me. It does genuinely sound like a guy screaming for his life.
Hey, Mary.
Mary died a long time ago. My name is Lady. Goodbye, Father.
No!
Thankfully, the game doesn't end on a shitty boss, since after everything, Virgil isn't content to give up and make peace with his brother. He can't let go of that compulsion to become so strong he can never be as vulnerable as the day he lost his family, and simply put in his own words,
Unfortunately, our souls are at odds, brother. I need more power.
And we're supposed to be twins.
Twins.
Right.
Now this is how you do a tough as nails but fair boss fight. He now has the Yamato and a near copy of Rebellion's moveset with the addition of the Force Edge, and he goes into his Devil Trigger much more frequently, with noticeably less time and opportunities to damage him. Plus, with the scenery of battling on this river overlooking the gates of hell, it's with good reason this fight has become one of the most iconic in gaming, let alone this series. Dante bests his brother, with Virgil adamant on staying, keeping us off of the amulet, and warning Dante to leave or else he'll remain with him in the demon world, and I believe this is both him not willing to give up the last thing he has of his late mother, and trying to protect Dante in his own weird way. Slashing his hand when Dante tries to reach out to catch him as he falls. The surviving brother meets back up with Lady, with him processing Virgil's assumed death, causing him to shed a tear before more demons rudely interrupt the scene, with you cutting them down as the credits roll with the best song in the game, Devils Never Cry, blasting in the background. And this song needed to be in the game more. It is the best combat song by a mile. I think the other ones are fine, but Devils Never Cry is such a certified hood classic, and it's not in the game more apart from the credits. Add it in more fights, put it in some of the bosses, I don't care. I want to hear it more. Oh, and as a side note, don't try to pause during the credits, as it'll cut straight to the last cutscene and you won't be able to get the trophy for beating 100 demons, and also it just means that you don't get to hang out and kill demons with Lady, and who wouldn't want that, because it's dope. The game ends with Dante properly opening his shop, now having his threads from the first game, meaning he's gained the ability to wear a shirt. Dante, we are so proud of you. It's confirmed Lady remains friends with him, since she now knows that some demons, such as Dante, have the ability to be compassionate, and afterwards we get an epilogue of Virgil in the demon world when he comes across Mundus, figuring if Sparta once defeated him, he should be able to as well, though we know how that turns out. That isn't the end of DMC3 though, as clearing the game unlocks a flurry of extras, including the option to play as Virgil himself. In Virgil's campaign, we get to see how him and Arkham first met, and I love that Arkham is just completely blacked out for a second in this cutscene here. Brother looks like a locked character in like a fighting game that you haven't gotten yet. He tells Virgil about opening up the Temne Gru, so these scenes obviously take place just before the events of the story, and after a scene of Virgil being Peak, we get right into the gameplay. Despite the unique intro, Virgil goes through the exact same levels as Dante, but he possesses a few things to make the adventure his own. Firstly, he only has the one signature style, named Darkslayer, with the style action being a teleport, but he has immediate access to his Devil Trigger and 3 weapons, the Yamato, the Force Edge, and Beowulf respectively. And it's not a case of choosing 2 either, like in the main campaign. You get to use all of them at any time, which is definitely a positive addition for sure, and instead of yucky, unsightly guns, he uses small summoned swords as a projectile instead. Like with Dante, you can improve your initial moveset both as Darkslayer levels up and buying upgrades for moves, like additional teleports for the former and faster summon swords as an example for the latter. But one thing I want to bring up, which is a cool fun fact, is the designs for Dante and Virgil's Devil Trigger. They were designed by Kazuma Kaneko of SMT Film before he caught the AI brain rot disease, which is a real darn shame. It was part of a kind of collaboration with Capcom and Atlas, with Dante appearing as a guest character in an enhanced edition called the Maniacs version of Japan of Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, which is just the normal version of the game we got overseas on PS2, and was thankfully brought back via DLC for the HD remaster a few years back. Having Virgil go through all the original levels is all well and good with me. Like I said with Trish in DMC2 in my video on that, any excuse for a fully new character is an A-OK with me. But it brought up a question. What would Capcom do for the Virgil boss fights? Well, Capcom had the bright idea to introduce an iconic, incredibly lore-heavy character to Virgil's playthrough. May I introduce Vante. Or Durgil. Anyway, it's just a recolored Virgil. It's just Virgil in a red jacket. I guess it's meant to imitate Virgil's POV for the boss fights? The game's so good that I don't really care. I give it a pass because this is just really fucking funny. Like I mentioned previously, the voice acting for everyone is stellar all around, but a standout for me has to be Daniel Southworth as Virgil, and I'm not 100% sure if this is true. I couldn't get a complete confirmation when I was doing my research, but apparently the reason Virgil has a slightly more nasally tone in his voice compared to his voice lines in other games is due to the actor having a cold at the time of recording, which I hope is true because it's both amusing and works well for Virgil at the same time. It makes his performance in this game feel particularly distinct and kind of gives him a know-it-all kind of vibe, which I think Virgil definitely would have in his younger years. Now, I may be getting a bit ahead of myself, but Virgil is my favourite character in all of Devil May Cry, both as just a character to play as and as a character in general in the later games. Whilst he's still a lot of fun here and definitely possesses the DNA of the iconic movesets we'd go on to see in 4 and 5 when he's playable, but DMC3 is the only game in the series where I prefer to play as Dante. Virgil just doesn't feel as fully fleshed out as he could have been, and in comparison to Dante here, with little things like not having a second jump in a game that places much more of an emphasis on platforming as 3 does, and his moveset just not feeling as, like, fluid. It doesn't feel like it flows into each other as well as it does in the later games and Dante here. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he isn't enjoyable here or anything, and it is a bit unfair to compare him to versions that came after, but it's just something I can't unnotice as a long-time series fan. I will say Arkham's boss fight is marginally better when playing as Virgil, mainly due to the rapid aerial strikes with Yamato and the summoned sword barrier doing a lot of the heavy lifting to avoid tedium, and I'm going to point out a not so fun fact here. So in the cutscene where Virgil fights Mundus, or goes to fight Mundus, he throws away the sheath for the Yamato, which he never does in any other fight or any other cutscene in the game. And this is because in Japan, a samurai throwing the sheath of their sword away signifies that they are ready to fight to the death and that they are fully prepared, that they are not going to come back from the battle. So I think Virgil probably had a feeling he wasn't going to win, which makes it feel like even more tragic what happens to him, poor guy. Beating the game unlocks more costumes, just like with Dante, and just like the prior games, Devil May Cry 3 has been released numerous times over the years, but in my opinion, there is actually a port that stands above all the rest, and that is the Nintendo Switch version, which adds something that's sorely lacking from all other versions of the game, bringing the quality of life that we see in DMC 4 and 5, being free mode. Now this is what I wanted to talk about earlier near the start of the video in regards to styles. So in free mode, not only is every style available to use at any given time, but so is every single melee and ranged weapon that you get. Now, I felt like it was important to play the game how it was originally designed for the first run through for footage, but this is an amazing change to returning players missing this quality of life feature from the later entries in my opinion. No changes for Virgil since he has all his tools from the get-go, but I feel bad leaving him out, so I like the corrupted costume you get for beating hard mode that has Nello Angelo as his devil trigger. It's not exclusive to the Switch port or anything, but it's cool. I like he goes, ha ha, when you taunt. Oh, but Dante also has a Sparta skin when you use his DMC1 coated for his devil trigger. But it isn't as cool as Virgil's ult since it doesn't change the moveset and you get to use Nello Angelo's original moveset in the corrupted Virgil's devil trigger, so that's automatically cooler. We give Virgil something unique to him, damn it. Dante gets everything. If you're playing DMC3 for the first time and you've played the later games in the series, I would honestly say the Switch port is the way to go for the convenience of having every single sword and style available at one time. And gun, don't forget the gun. but you can play how the game was originally designed by just not clicking on free mode, so you get the best of both worlds for that version. So I think it's a bit shitty that the other ports weren't updated to include free mode officially, but if you have the game on PC, mods are absolutely an option. But I do think it's important to support official releases when done well, and I think the Switch port of Devil May Cry 3 definitely is done well. However, I cannot talk about ways of playing DMC3 without mentioning the incredible DMC3 Crimson Edition mod, which not only brings all the bells and whistles from the Switch over, but includes numerous tweaks and improvements that fans loved from later entries, like, for example, Inertia, where you can kind of boost yourself further if you're good at the game to do things that you originally weren't intended to do and extend combos and all that good stuff. To be honest, it's something that probably deserves its own video with how much it brings to the table, but if you don't have a Switch, this version is absolutely the way to go on PC, to the point where I played the game all the way over again on hard mode with Turbo enabled. Turbo's in the vanilla version of the game as well. I believe it makes everything 20% faster, and it was a bit wild getting used to everything going that much faster. It was super hectic, but blasting yourself all over the place is hella fun, and with the amount of stuff you have at your disposal and the extra quality of life features from the Crimson mod, I think you'd kind of steamroll the game on normal, so hard's probably where you want to go for that if you're using the Crimson mod. Especially if you've played through the game already and you have all the weapons and stuff. Plus you just get really stupid stuff like, you can play as Lady, it's just like a skin for Dante, and half of the things, because a model wasn't designed to do it, makes a T-pose, but it's funny. And obviously with it being something that's on PC, there are so many tiny little things that you can tweak and change to your liking, as well as adding cheats such as like the big ones like infinite health and one-hit kills and all that stuff. But I don't really like to do that. I feel like it kind of takes away the point of the game. But you know, it's your playthrough, you do you, go crazy, go wild. If you guys want to see a full playthrough or like a full video on the DMC3 Crimson mod specifically, please let me know in the comments. It's something I've definitely been considering doing, but I couldn't make a video on Devil May Cry 3 and playing it on PC without giving it a mention at some point in the video. Plus, it's super easy to do if you want to try it out. It was literally just 2 clicks for me on how it was downloading it, and then getting the installer from the download. Literally took me 2 clicks and everything worked absolutely fine, so I definitely recommend giving it a try yourself as well if you've never played the Crimson mod and you want to try out DMC3 on PC. More than 20 years on, Devil May Cry 3 has gone on to become not only one of the best action games or character action, hack and slash, whatever you want to call it, ever made, but one of the PS2's best titles full stop, and has gone on to set the standard for both its own series and engaging character action as a whole. Even if you don't have the Switch version or mods aren't your thing for whatever reason, the plain release of the Special Edition is more than worth your time. And I really stress, if you're going to try this game out and you haven't tried it before, go for the Special Edition. The vanilla Dante's Awakening not only doesn't have the additions like Virgil's campaign, the edition of Gold mode, and the fight against Jester, but the normal mode in Japan changed to their hard mode for here, I think because they got feedback that Devil May Cry 2 was too easy with the guns, so then they were like, okay, we're gonna make Devil May Cry 3 hard if they feel like that the series has been too easy. And especially for the lack of options you have, I think that's a bit overkill. So yeah, definitely go with the Special Edition if you want to play just on the normal standard difficulty. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.